There is a specific kind of cold right now. Not the weather outside, but the climate of everything else. The cost of living, the relentless housing market, the emotional exhaustion of modern dating. It feels like a psychological ice age. And when you are walking through a freezing, barren landscape for long enough, your brain stops looking for a destination. It just looks for immediate thermal relief, which might be why so many of us are stepping into what looks like a warm sanctuary. You find someone. You split the rent. You share the grocery bill. The immediate relief of a dual-income household floods your nervous system, tricking you into feeling safe. But actually, let me back up. What I think might be happening isn't a romantic victory at all. I think we are walking blindly into a tar pit. It is incredibly warm, and it is technically safe from the freezing winds outside, but it is slowly, quietly immobilizing us. We mistake the biological relief of shared expenses for genuine romantic connection. We look at the terrifying economic landscape and decide that surviving together is the exact same thing as thriving together. We tend to view modern marriage as a grand, intentional milestone. But the pattern I keep noticing looks less like a conscious choice and more like an instinctual herd migration. As you hit your late 20s or early 30s, the people around you start pairing off. The music stops, and a primal panic sets in. You don't necessarily decide on a life partner based on deep, resonant alignment. You just slide into the arrangement with whoever happens to be standing next to you when the panic hits. The fear of missing out overrides your intuition. It is a Saturday afternoon. You are sitting at another friend's wedding reception. You look down at your phone, then up at your partner of 3 years who is chewing on a cocktail straw, staring blankly at the ceiling. There is a sudden, heavy tightness in the center of your chest. A quiet, unnamed dread that you immediately push down beneath a sip of lukewarm champagne. Why do we push it down? If you have spent years surviving the absolute chaos of the modern dating pool, the ghosting, the situationships, the unpredictable volatility, your nervous system is likely traumatized. It craves absolute stillness. So you overcorrect. You choose a partner who is entirely safe, someone who exerts zero emotional friction and demands nothing of your deeper self. You look at the profound boredom in your living room and you tell yourself it is mature stability. But mistaking a lack of conflict for profound peace is a dangerous illusion. It is like an insect stepping into tree resin to escape a brutal storm. The resin hardens. The amber is beautiful, and it protects you perfectly from the predators outside. But you are completely paralyzed. You trade the volatility of the wild for total fossilization. I don't know if this is exactly right. But the more I look at it, the more it seems like we are terrified of our own vitality. And then it is just Tuesday. You make tea. You watch another episode of a show. Which brings us to the hardest part of this to look at. The roommate phase. The amber hardens and the silence sets in. We tell ourselves that this quiet, passionless arrangement is just what long-term commitment looks like. We define ourselves as responsible, pragmatic adults who have outgrown the foolishness of fiery romance. We believe we are acting out of mature wisdom, but the reality of what maintains this dynamic today is entirely on us. We actively choose to stay quiet to protect the non-refundable deposits of our lives. We swallow our own needs because disrupting the peace would mean losing the apartment, dividing the friend group, and stepping back out into the cold. There is something I came across recently that I keep thinking about. Research tends to suggest that staying in a chronically unfulfilling, emotionally disengaged partnership doesn't just make you sad. It alters your biology. The silent, unexpressed resentment of settling often creates a low-grade, constant drip of cortisol, which can suppress the immune system and increase systemic inflammation over time, which might explain the chronic exhaustion underneath all of this. The physical weight you cannot seem to shake. The constant low-level sickness that lingers in the background of your life. The absence of conflict in your relationship is not a sign of health. It is biological stagnation. Your body realizes something your mind is refusing to accept. Starving inside a golden cage is biologically just as fatal as freezing outside of it. I am aware this is a lot of heavy words for a Tuesday afternoon. But the cost of ignoring this is steep. When you use a relationship purely as a survival mechanism, the resentment doesn't announce itself with screaming matches. It seeps quietly into the floorboards. You stop making eye contact during dinner. You start finding reasons to stay at the office an extra hour, or you sit in your parked car in the driveway just to have 10 minutes of isolated peace. You are legally and financially bound to someone, but you are living as a ghost in your own home. You have successfully insulated yourself from the economic storm, but you have entirely erased your own spirit. It is late on a Thursday. You are lying in bed. The lights are off. You hear the rhythmic breathing of the person sleeping next to you. Your jaw is tight. The shared calendar is full of obligations. You said sure to a life you never actually wanted. There is a faint buzzing in your ears. The tragedy of the amber illusion is that we think we are protecting ourselves from failure, when in reality we are just perfectly preserving our own decay. But the resin has not permanently set yet. You still have agency here. You can choose to shatter the illusion before it hardens entirely. A canceled lease, a broken engagement, or a brutally honest conversation that fractures the relationship. These are not catastrophic failures. They are temporary tectonic shocks. They are the seismic fractures necessary to break the amber before it becomes your tomb. I am not sure this is true for everyone, but if it is your story, you might need to accept that a loveless, financially driven marriage is a lifetime of fossilization. You have to be willing to brave the ice age. If that thought makes your chest tight, you might want to send this to the one friend who actually understands what you are going through. You will probably wake up tomorrow and do the exact same routine. You will split the coffee beans, check the shared calendar, and pretend the silence is peaceful. But how much longer can you hold your breath before the resin completely hardens? The tar is warm, but you are sinking.